When hope fades, the morning sun cast long shadows across the research domes of Kepler Station as Dr. Elena Vasquez made her daily inspection of the excavation site. For 3 years, her team had been carefully uncovering what appeared to be ancient precursor technology buried deep beneath the planet's crystalline surface. The artifacts they discovered defied explanation, showing engineering principles that seemed impossible even by current galactic standards. Elena paused at the main dig site, watching her team of archaeologists and engineers work with delicate precision around a massive metallic structure that hummed with residual energy. The structure was unlike anything in known databases, its surface covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change when observed directly. Her assistant, Dr. James Wright, emerged from beneath the artifact with excitement written across his dirt-covered face. "Elena, you need to see this," James called out, holding a small crystalline device that pulsed with soft blue light. "I think we found some kind of power core. The energy readings are off the charts, but it's completely stable. This technology is thousands of years ahead of anything the Galactic Council has ever documented." Elena took the device carefully, feeling its surprising warmth. The crystal seemed to respond to her touch, its internal light growing brighter. She had spent her entire career studying ancient civilizations, but nothing had prepared her for the implications of what they were discovering. If these artifacts represented the technology of the mysterious precursors who had vanished millennia ago, then humanity had stumbled upon something that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. The peaceful morning was shattered by the urgent blaring of the station's emergency alarm. Elena's communicator crackled to life with the voice of Chief Communications Officer Lisa Park. "Dr. Vasquez, you need to get to the command center immediately. We have multiple unidentified ships approaching the system at high speed." Elena and James ran through the connecting tunnels that linked the research domes to the main habitat modules. Kepler Station had been built to house 5,000 researchers, engineers, and support staff, making it one of the largest human settlements in the Outer Rim. The station's defensive capabilities were minimal, designed more to deter pirates than to face a serious military threat. In the command center, Elena found Chief Security Officer Captain Ryan Torres studying the tactical display with grim concentration. The screen showed dozens of red dots approaching their position, moving in perfect military formation. The lead ships were already close enough for detailed scans, revealing hull configurations that made Elena's blood run cold. "Zephyrian Empire," Captain Torres said without looking up from his console. 47 war vessels, including 3 Dreadnought-class battleships. Their fleet composition suggests this isn't a raid or exploration mission. They're here for conquest. Elena felt her heart sink. The Zephyrian Empire was notorious throughout the galaxy for their systematic conquest and enslavement of entire species. They had built their civilization on the backs of dozens of conquered races, turning advanced civilizations into labor forces for their ever-expanding war machine. The Empire's policy toward human colonies had been one of careful observation until now, but something had clearly changed. "How long until they reach us?" Elena asked, trying to keep her voice steady for the sake of her staff. 18 hours at current approach speed," Torres replied. "I've already sent distress calls to Earth Command and the nearest Galactic Council outposts, but our closest neighbors are weeks away even at maximum jump speed. We're on our own." Elena activated the station-wide communication system, knowing that thousands of people were waiting for her words. Many of them had families back on Earth, children who would never see their parents again if the Zephyrians followed their usual pattern of operation. She took a deep breath and spoke with as much confidence as she could muster. "This is Dr. Elena Vasquez, speaking to all station personnel. We face a serious threat, but we are not helpless. Begin emergency protocols immediately. All non-essential personnel should move to the reinforced sectors. Research teams, secure your most critical data and samples. Security teams, prepare defensive positions. We have 18 hours to prepare, and we will use every minute." As the station transformed from a peaceful research facility into a fortress, Alina couldn't help but think about the irony of their situation. They had been studying the technology of an ancient civilization that had presumably faced extinction, only to find themselves in the same position. But there was something about the precursor artifacts that gave her hope, something she couldn't quite explain. Deep beneath the surface of a remote asteroid in the outer reaches of the Sol system, alarms began sounding in a facility that didn't officially exist. The installation was known only as Site-7, and it housed one of humanity's most closely guarded secrets. Commander Marcus Chen was reviewing tactical reports when his aide burst through the door with an expression of barely controlled excitement. "Commander, we have activation of Protocol Silent Guardian. Kepler Station is under threat from a Zephyrian battle fleet." Marcus felt a surge of adrenaline. For 5 years, he had been preparing for this moment, training with technology that pushed the boundaries of known physics. The Shadow Protocol had been humanity's best-kept secret, a network of hidden installations and experimental vessels designed to protect human colonies in the event of major alien aggression. Marcus made his way through corridors filled with personnel who moved with the precision of a military unit that had trained together for years. The facility was massive, carved directly into the asteroid's interior, and powered by fusion reactors that could keep it running for decades. At the center of the installation waited humanity's most advanced warship, a vessel that incorporated technology reverse-engineered from artifacts similar to those being studied at Kepler Station. The ship was designated as the Prometheus, though its existence was known to fewer than 100 people in the entire human government. Its hull was constructed from metamaterials that could bend electromagnetic radiation around it, making it effectively invisible to most sensors. Its propulsion system used principles that Earth's scientists were still struggling to understand, allowing it to move through space in ways that violated conventional physics. Lieutenant Sarah Kim met Marcus at the ship's airlock, her expression focused and determined. As the ship's tactical officer, she had spent years studying Zephyrian military doctrine and developing countermeasures against their standard tactics. Chief Engineer Rosa Santos was already aboard, running final system checks on technology that had never been tested in actual combat. "Status report," Marcus ordered as they made their way to the bridge. "All systems are operational," Rosa replied, her fingers dancing across holographic displays that showed ship systems functioning at peak efficiency. "The quantum drives are stable, stealth systems are online, and weapons are charged and ready. The new precursor-derived shields have passed all simulations." Tactical assessment. Marcus asked Sarah. "The Zephyrian fleet follows standard conquest protocol," Sarah replied, pulling up 3-dimensional models of enemy ship formations. "They'll establish orbital dominance, then demand surrender. If refused, they'll begin systematic bombardment of population centers. Based on their fleet composition, they're planning to capture the station intact, probably because they've detected the precursor artifacts." Marcus settled into the captain's chair and activated the ship's communication system. "This is Commander Chen to Earth Command. Prometheus is departing for Kepler Station under full stealth protocols. Estimated arrival in 14 hours. The response came from Admiral Patricia Stone, the only person in Earth's military hierarchy who knew the full extent of the Shadow Protocol. "Understood, Marcus. Remember, this isn't just about saving Kepler Station. The galaxy needs to understand that humanity is not defenseless. Show them what we're really capable of." As the Prometheus departed from Site-7, its revolutionary propulsion system folded space around it in ways that made conventional faster-than-light travel look primitive. The ship slipped through dimensions that most species didn't even know existed, moving toward a confrontation that would change the galaxy's perception of humanity forever. Back at Kepler Station, Helena stood in the observatory dome, watching the approaching Zephyrian fleet through the station's most powerful telescopes. The enemy ships were massive, their dark hulls bristling with weapons designed to reduce planets to molten slag. She had read the reports of what happened to colonies that fell to the Zephyrian Empire, and she was determined that Kepler Station would not share that fate. Dr. James Wright approached her with the precursor crystal they had discovered that morning, its blue light now pulsing in what seemed like a regular pattern. "Elena, I think this device is responding to something. The energy patterns have been increasing steadily since the Zephyrians entered the system." Elena took the crystal and felt it warm in her hands. For a moment, she could have sworn she heard something like whispered voices speaking in a language that predated human civilization by millennia. The voices seemed to be saying that help was coming, that humanity was not alone in the galaxy. As the hours passed and the Zephyrian fleet drew closer, Elena realized that their situation had become about more than just survival. They were holding something that could change the balance of power in the galaxy, and they had a responsibility to protect it not just for themselves, but for all the species that lived under the shadow of Zephyrian oppression. The final hours before the confrontation passed quickly, with every person on the station working frantically to prepare for what seemed like certain defeat. But deep in space, something was moving toward them that would prove the galaxy had seriously underestimated humanity's true capabilities. The awakening. The Zephyrian fleet emerged from hyperspace with the precision of a military machine that had conquered a dozen star systems. War Commander Crix stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Devastator, watching the tactical displays show the pathetic defenses of the human research station. In his experience, humans were a weak species that relied on diplomacy and trade rather than military might. This conquest would be routine. "Begin standard intimidation protocol." Crix ordered his communications officer. "Demand their immediate surrender. If they refuse, target their power generation facilities. I want them helpless but alive. The Empire has used for their research data." The message that reached Kepler Station was delivered in the harsh, guttural tones of the Zephyrian language, with a translation that left no room for misunderstanding. Dr. Elena Vasquez listened to the ultimatum with growing anger rather than fear. The Zephyrians demanded complete surrender within 1 hour, after which they would begin systematic destruction of the station's infrastructure. "They want our research," Elena said to her senior staff gathered in the command center. "Everything we've discovered about the precursor artifacts. We can't let that technology fall into their hands." Captain Torres checked his tactical display one final time. "We have defensive positions throughout the station, but our weapons are designed for asteroid mining and scientific purposes. Against a fleet of that size, we can maybe buy a few hours at most." Elena was about to respond when something extraordinary happened. The precursor crystal that Dr. Wright had been studying began to pulse with brilliant light, and every piece of precursor technology throughout the research site suddenly activated simultaneously. Ancient symbols appeared on display screens throughout the station, and a deep harmonic vibration began to resonate through the hull. "Elena, look at this," Wright called out from his analysis station. "The precursor artifacts are generating some kind of signal. It's broadcasting on frequencies I've never seen before, using quantum entanglement principles that shouldn't be possible." Before Elena could ask what that meant, her communications officer received an incoming transmission on a channel that hadn't existed moments before. The voice that came through was calm and confident, speaking in perfect English with an accent Elena couldn't identify. "Kepler Station, this is Commander Marcus Chen of the Earth Defense Vessel Prometheus. We have received your distress call and are moving to assist. Please maintain defensive positions and do not attempt to negotiate with the Zephyrian forces." Elena stared at the communications console in shock. "Earth Defense Vessel? There's no such thing. Our military doesn't have ships capable of reaching us in time." "Ma'am," her sensor operator called out, "I'm detecting a massive gravitational anomaly forming near the edge of the system. Something's coming through. Something big." The space near Kepler Station began to ripple like water, and reality itself seemed to bend as the Prometheus emerged from what could only be described as a fold in space-time. The ship that appeared defied everything Elena knew about human technology. It was larger than any vessel in the Earth colonial fleet, its hull composed of materials that seemed to absorb and redirect light in impossible ways. War Commander Crix watched the human ship's arrival with a mixture of amusement and confusion. One vessel against my entire fleet. These humans are even more foolish than I thought. Target their engines and disable them quickly. I want to study their ship's technology before we destroy it. But as the Zephyrian fleet moved to engage the Prometheus, something unprecedented happened. The human ship simply vanished from all sensors, as if it had never existed. Crix's weapons officers frantically adjusted their targeting systems, but their most advanced scanners could detect nothing. "Where did it go?" Crix demanded, his voice rising with the first hint of concern he had felt in years. The answer came in the form of devastating weapons fire that seemed to materialize from empty space. The Prometheus had not disappeared. It had become invisible through technology that made stealth systems of other species look primitive by comparison. The ship's weapons were unlike anything in known galactic databases, firing coherent beams of energy that passed through conventional shields as if they didn't exist. 3 Zephyrian cruisers exploded in brilliant fireballs before Crix could even order evasive maneuvers. The human ship moved through space with impossible agility, its propulsion system allowing it to change direction and velocity in ways that violated basic physics. Every shot it fired found its target with surgical precision, systematically dismantling the Zephyrian formation. Commander Marcus Chen stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, watching his crew work with the efficiency of years of intensive training. Lieutenant Sarah Kim coordinated the tactical display, tracking 44 remaining Zephyrian vessels, while simultaneously calculating firing solutions for weapons that used principles borrowed from precursor technology. "Their command ship is trying to withdraw," Sarah reported. "Should we let them go?" "Negative," Marcus replied firmly. "Today the galaxy learns that humanity is not defenseless. Target their flagship's engines. I want to have a conversation with their commander." Chief Engineer Rosa Santos monitored the ship's systems from her station, watching power levels that would have been impossible with conventional human technology. The Prometheus was powered by a fusion reactor that incorporated principles reverse-engineered from precursor artifacts, generating more energy than most space stations. Its shields were based on technology that manipulated gravitational fields themselves, creating defensive barriers that could deflect even the most powerful weapons. The Zephyrian flagship, the Devastator, found itself trapped as the invisible human ship systematically destroyed its escort vessels. War Commander Crix had never experienced defeat in 2 decades of conquest, and he was struggling to understand how a single human vessel could outfight his entire fleet. "Zephyrian command ship, this is Commander Chen." Marcus's voice came through the Devastator's communication system. "You will withdraw from this system immediately and never return. Any attempt to approach human colonies will be met with overwhelming force." Crix activated his own communications channel, his voice filled with rage and disbelief. "Human, you cannot threaten the Zephyrian Empire. We have conquered species far more advanced than yours. One ship cannot stand against the might of our entire military." "You're right," Marcus replied calmly. "One ship can't stand against your entire military. Fortunately, I'm not alone." At that moment, space around the Kepler system began to ripple as more ships emerged from folds in space-time. The Prometheus was joined by 5 other vessels of similar design, each one appearing from a different direction, and all of them invisible to conventional sensors. The Shadow Fleet had revealed itself, and the display of human military capability was beyond anything the Zephyrian Empire had encountered. Dr. Elena Vasquez watched the battle from Kepler Station's observation deck, hardly believing what she was seeing. The human ships moved like living things, their formations coordinated with impossible precision. Their weapons seemed to reach across space itself, striking targets with beams of energy that her sensors couldn't properly analyze. "How is this possible?" she whispered to Dr. Wright, who was monitoring the precursor artifacts as they continued to pulse with increasing intensity. "I think we've been looking at this backwards," Wright replied, his voice filled with wonder. "We assumed the precursor artifacts were ancient technology left behind by a dead civilization. But what if they weren't abandoned? What if they were hidden, waiting for the right species to find them? As the battle in space continued, Alina realized that humanity had been preparing for this moment for longer than anyone knew. The Shadow Fleet wasn't something that had been built in response to the Zephyrian threat. It represented years of secret development using technology that had been carefully reverse-engineered from precursor artifacts found throughout human space. War Commander Crix found himself facing a choice he had never contemplated in his career. His fleet was being systematically destroyed by human vessels that moved and fought with capabilities that seemed magical. The Zephyrian Empire had built its power on the assumption that they possessed superior military technology. But these humans were demonstrating abilities that surpassed anything in the known galaxy. "All ships, withdraw immediately," Crix ordered, his pride warring with his survival instincts. "Set course for the nearest Empire outpost. Command must be informed of what we've discovered here." But Marcus Chen had no intention of allowing the Zephyrian fleet to escape and report human capabilities to their superiors. The Prometheus and its sister ships moved to intercept the retreating vessels, their weapons systematically disabling Zephyrian ships without destroying them completely. "Commander Crix," Marcus transmitted to the Zephyrian flagship, "you misunderstand the situation. You're not withdrawing. You're being escorted to a location where you can deliver a message to your empire. The message is simple. Human colonies are under the protection of forces you cannot comprehend or defeat." The remaining Zephyrian vessels found themselves surrounded by invisible ships that could strike from any direction without warning. Crix realized that his entire understanding of galactic power structures had just been shattered. Humanity, the species his empire had dismissed as weak and insignificant, possessed military technology that made them potentially the most dangerous force in the galaxy. As the Shadow Fleet escorted the battered Zephyrian survivors toward the edge of the system, Alina received another transmission from Commander Chen. "Dr. Vasquez, your research is more important than you realize. The precursor artifacts you've been studying are not just ancient technology. They're keys to capabilities that humanity has been developing in secret for years. Your work has helped us unlock defensive systems that will protect human colonies throughout the galaxy." Elena looked at the precursor crystal in her hands, its blue light now pulsing in harmony with similar artifacts throughout the research station. She understood now that humanity's apparent weakness had been carefully cultivated deception. While the galaxy saw humans as peaceful traders and explorers, Earth had been quietly preparing for the day when that peaceful facade would no longer be sufficient. The battle at Kepler Station lasted less than 4 hours, but its consequences would reshape the balance of power throughout the galaxy. Within weeks, every major spacefaring civilization would receive reports of the Zephyrian fleet's defeat and the revelation of humanity's hidden military capabilities. The Galactic Council, which had long treated humanity as a minor species worthy of protection rather than respect, would suddenly find themselves dealing with a power that could project force across interstellar distances using technology that none of them fully understood. Trade agreements that had favored alien species would be renegotiated. Military alliances that had excluded humanity would send urgent invitations for human participation. But perhaps most importantly, species throughout the galaxy that had lived under the threat of Zephyrian conquest would realize that the balance of power had shifted. The empire that had seemed unstoppable for decades had been defeated by a species they had dismissed as insignificant. As the Shadow Fleet disappeared back into folds in space-time, leaving no trace of their passage, Alina Vasquez stood in her laboratory holding a crystal that contained the accumulated knowledge of a civilization that had vanished millennia ago. The precursors had left behind more than just technology. They had left behind a test, and humanity had passed it. The galaxy would never again make the mistake of underestimating human resolve, ingenuity, or the lengths to which humanity would go to protect its own. The age of human weakness was over, and the age of human strength had begun.